You say you're failing, that success eludes you, that something somewhere is holding you back. But the truth is darker, sharper, more humiliating. You're not failing, you're hiding. Not from the world, not from your enemies. You're hiding from your own greatness. Because deep down, you know what you could be. And that knowing, that unbearable clarity, terrifies you. Nietzsche saw this sickness, a soul that recoils not in defeat, but in fear of rising too high, of becoming too real, too visible, too powerful. Because greatness demands death, death of who you've been, of the comfort that held you, of the lies you built your life around. This is not a gentle awakening. It is an eruption, a confrontation. And if you're still watching, it means some buried part of you is ready. Now we begin. Why failure is not the real enemy. You've told yourself the story so many times. I failed. It wasn't meant to be. I tried. But beneath every excuse, every sigh, every false conclusion, there's a truth your soul is still choking on. You didn't fail. You stopped. You quit before the breaking point, not because you were weak, but because you glimpsed what succeeding would demand of you. And you weren't ready to pay that price, because true failure isn't falling short. It's turning away from the cliff when you were one step from flight. The unbearable responsibility of potential. Nietzsche believed that potential, the raw material of greatness, is not a gift, it's a curse. It burdens you with what you could become if only you dared. But with that knowledge comes weight. Because if you know you're capable, and you still don't act, then you are not ignorant. You are cowardly, and that is harder to forgive. Responsibility is terrifying. It means your life is no longer something happening to you. It is something you are actively shaping. Every excuse dies. Every delay becomes a betrayal. And so instead of rising, you hide. You smother your fire in comfort, distraction, and fake humility. You pretend you're still searching when the truth is you're avoiding. Nietzsche's view on self-sabotage as comfort. Why would you sabotage your own dreams? Why avoid the very thing your soul screams for? Because sabotage feels safer than exposure. To succeed is to be seen, to be judged, to become a target. And so you procrastinate, delay, get distracted, not because you hate yourself, but because it's easier than confronting your own divinity. Nietzsche wrote that man often chooses suffering over transformation, because pain is familiar, change is not. We choose the devil we know, even if it means burning our future to stay in the warmth of now. The terror of standing out and being seen. The herd is safe. The crowd forgives mediocrity. It does not forgive audacity. To rise is to leave the pack, and that is a lonely, brutal, glorious thing. You fear being exceptional not because you doubt your ability, but because you know that greatness isolates, it separates, it demands solitude, and in solitude, you meet yourself fully. There are no more masks, no more distractions, just the raw, trembling truth. You were always capable. You just refused to accept the consequences. But now the mirror has been lifted, and you cannot unsee who you are or who you were born to be. How conformity kills greatness. You walk the path laid before you, polite, acceptable, harmless. You blend in. You follow the rules. You chase success the way they told you to. But something inside you decays with every step. Because the truth is, you were never meant to fit in. Nietzsche wrote, "He who would be a creator must first destroy values." Yet most choose imitation over creation. They silence the scream of individuality to avoid the stare of judgment. Conformity is not security. It is slow spiritual suicide. You were not made to repeat. You were made to rupture. The psychology of hiding behind normal. Being normal is the most effective camouflage. It's a way to say, don't look at me, don't expect too much, don't hurt me. But normal is a fortress built from fear. And every time you say, I'm just like everyone else, what you're really saying is, I'm too afraid to become who I am. Nietzsche believed that the deepest instincts of greatness are repressed, buried beneath etiquette, shame, and socialization. You've been taught to tame yourself, to make yourself digestible, but all that energy doesn't disappear. It festers until it explodes or implodes. Why society rewards the inauthentic. The crowd does not want your truth. It wants your performance. It rewards predictability. It applauds those who smile without threat, who succeed without changing anything, who shine just enough to entertain, but never enough to disrupt. Authenticity, rawness, and depth are dangerous because they challenge. They make people feel their own repression. And so society, in schools, in media, in culture, trains you to polish your edges, hide your scars, and call it maturity. But Nietzsche knew true growth begins where the masks crack, becoming invisible to avoid rejection. You say you're not afraid, but you play small. You mute your passion. You overthink your posts, your work, your words. Why? Because you fear rejection more than stagnation. You'd rather disappear than be misunderstood. But invisibility is not safety. It is erasure. And you're erasing yourself a little more each day. There is no glory in being unseen. There is no peace in being unknown. Not truly. Not if you were born to burn. To live authentically is to accept exile. To dare to be real is to risk everything. Comfort, approval, even love. But what you gain is yourself. Greatness as self-overcoming, not competition. You were taught to win by beating others, to rise by comparison. But Nietzsche saw greatness not as conquest over others, but as conquest over self. Self-overcoming, the sacred war within. It is not about applause. It is not about being first. It is about refusing to be who you were yesterday. This is not a game. It is a fire, a death, and a resurrection. Each morning the old you must be slain, not with violence, but with refusal. A refusal to remain small, passive, safe. That is the will to power, the drive not to dominate others, but to transcend your own decay, channeling rage, doubt, and shame into creation. You think your anger is a problem, your shame a weakness, your doubt an enemy. But what if they are raw material, not poison, but power? Nietzsche did not ask us to silence our darkness. He asked us to transfigure it. Rage becomes clarity, shame becomes fuel, doubt becomes the first spark of truth. The very emotions that paralyze you are also the ones that hold the most energy, not because they are pure, but because they are honest. Use them, create from them, let your shadow become your spine. You were not made to be happy, but to rise happiness, comfort, peace. You've been told these are the goals, but Nietzsche spits on that lie. You were not made to be content. You were made to ascend, and ascent is painful. It is lonely. It demands sacrifice. If you pursue only happiness, you will sell your soul for softness. You will become a slave to the path of least resistance. But if you pursue becoming, true, raw, relentless becoming, happiness is no longer the goal. It becomes a side effect of power. And power, in Nietzsche's terms, is not control. It is intensity, aliveness, depth, turning inner war into sacred ambition. The conflict inside you, the push and pull, the ambition and fear, the voice that says go and the one that says wait. It is not dysfunction. It is divinity in motion. The will to power is that tension. It is the force that says, I must create, even when everything inside resists. It is the scream that says, I will not stay here, even when the world applauds your comfort. Sacred ambition is not about results. It is about direction. It is about choosing movement again and again, because your soul refuses stillness. Let your inner war become your forge. Let every hesitation burn away. Let every failure sharpen your edge. Because you are not here to remain, you are here to rise. Why potential is a burden? Until acted upon, people praise your potential. They tell you how bright your future looks. They see your talent, your ideas, your spark, and so do you. But what begins as flattery becomes a weight, a haunting. Because the more you are told you have potential, the more crushing it becomes to see it unused, unlived, unproven. Nietzsche would not call this a gift. He would call it a curse. Potential is nothing until it's broken open, until it bleeds into form, into risk, into consequence. To have potential and not act on it is to live in a cage built of your own gold. The lie of I'm not ready. I need more time. I need to prepare. I need clarity. No, you need courage. I'm not ready is the great illusion. It is how fear disguises itself as prudence. It sounds reasonable, safe, intelligent, but underneath it is the trembling of a soul unwilling to step into fire. Nietzsche did not believe in waiting. He believed in becoming. And becoming does not begin when you are ready. It begins when you move despite not being ready. There is no arrival. There is only ignition. How fear becomes identity. At first, fear is a feeling. Then it becomes a habit. Eventually, it becomes a cell. You no longer say, "I'm afraid to speak." You say, "I'm not a speaker." This is how the prison builds itself, brick by brick, thought by thought, until the door disappears. You begin to think you are the cage. Nietzsche's antidote: destruction, not of others, but of the false self, the timid self, the inherited self, the self that flinches at movement. To escape fear, you must violate the identity it has given you. You must act in a way that contradicts who you believe you are. That is the beginning of liberation. Moving without clarity, trust as defiance. You want certainty, a plan, a guarantee. But clarity is not a prerequisite for movement. It is its reward. To act without clarity is not foolishness. It is defiance. It is a soul saying, "I will not wait to be perfect. I will not delay my becoming." Nietzsche saw that trust, not in fate, not in gods, but in one's own becoming, is the ultimate power. When you trust that your steps will shape the path, you stop seeking permission. You stop rehearsing. You begin living. The Overman doesn't wait for approval. There comes a moment when waiting becomes betrayal, not of others, but of yourself, of the God within you, the fire waiting to be unleashed. The Overman, Nietzsche's highest vision of the human spirit, is not the strongest nor the most praised. He is the one who dares, the one who acts without consensus, without applause, without a crowd to follow. You keep seeking signs, permissions, encouragement, but the Overman doesn't ask, "Will they understand me?" He declares, "I will become who I must, even if it means walking alone," because greatness is never voted on. It is seized. Audacity as a spiritual path. Audacity is not arrogance. It is a sacred posture, a way of saying, "I know who I am and I refuse to shrink." To dare is not to be reckless. It is to be real, unfiltered, untamed, unapologetic in the pursuit of truth. You've been taught that humility is to stay small. Nietzsche disagreed. True humility is knowing you are a storm and choosing to direct it with purpose. To live boldly is not a luxury, it is your birthright. And it is a path that will test every illusion you have of safety. How action defines truth. You want to know who you are. Don't look at your thoughts. Look at your actions. Are you moving, creating, speaking, breaking, rebuilding, or are you theorizing, postponing, hoping? Nietzsche's truth is brutal because it's physical. There is no identity apart from action. There is no destiny apart from effort. You do not become real by waiting. You become real by choosing, by doing. Every moment you hesitate, the world forgets your name. Every moment you act, the world takes notice, even if it does not clap. Choose greatness now or vanish forever. This is the moment, not tomorrow, not when you're more confident or richer or validated. Now. Choose to rise and or fade. Choose to burn and or dissolve. Choose to dare or disappear. Nietzsche would not beg you. He would not inspire you. He would confront you, hold a mirror to your soul and say, you are either becoming more than human or less than alive. So what will it be? This is your call to act. Close the tab. Stop consuming. Begin doing now. Not to impress, not to win, but because you were made for it. No more hiding, no more waiting. Dare.